You think modern breakfast is an improvement over what our grandparents made? Think again. Generations of Americans woke up to hearty, creative morning meals that have completely vanished from our tables. Let's dig into 60 breakfasts we stupidly stopped making and deeply regret. Pancake on a stick, a fun and convenient breakfast treat, was first created in the early 21st century. This dish combines the classic flavors of pancakes and sausage into an easy-to-eat form, typically enjoyed as a quick breakfast or snack. The dish consists of a sausage link coated in pancake batter and then fried until golden. Pancake on a stick became popular when it was introduced as a convenient food option by companies like Jimmy Dean. Unusual variations, such as using different types of sausage or adding cheese, have added to the appeal of this dish. In 2017, pancake on a stick was featured on the menu of select fast food chains, further popularizing this innovative breakfast option. The dish has since become a favorite at state fairs and festivals across the United States. TV brand frozen breakfasts offered a comprehensive, ready-to-eat meal solution that included sausages, eggs, pancakes, and hash browns, simplifying the morning routine for many American families. Introduced in the 1970s, these breakfasts catered to the need for convenience and variety, allowing families to enjoy a hearty meal without extensive preparation. The marketing of these products highlighted their quick and easy preparation, appealing particularly to those with hectic morning schedules. The assortment within each package made these breakfasts highly appealing, as they catered to various preferences within a family, all from a single, easy-to-prepare kit. This product line was well received for providing a diverse and satisfying breakfast experience that could be enjoyed by everyone at the table. Now, meat bone broth soup is a slow-simmered dish that most people think is deeply nourishing. When you walk into a kitchen that has this cooking, you start to immediately think that you're in the factory where pain relief medication is made. I mean, it doesn't smell like anything good. This is definitely one of those dishes where you have to trust the process, though, because you're in for a wild transformation. The magic of this recipe starts with the bones: beef, pork, or chicken, ideally with some scraps of meat still left on there, simmered for hours. If you want to get truly authentic and traditional, then you should simmer them for a few days. Yes, a few days. People actually did that with continuous fires. They also added a lot of onions, garlic, herbs, root vegetables, and whatever else they could find. The idea was that as it would cook, the marrow, collagen, and flavor would all dissolve and melt into the broth, making this super silky texture that just immediately feels amazing on the tongue. It feels a lot more like food than it feels like a broth, soup, or a drink, by the way. As far as the final flavor goes, it's deeply meaty, very subtly sweet, and it has a lot of herbaceous notes depending on the kinds of seasoning you use. Despite what you might think, the minerality from the bones isn't actually too strong. That's what all that intensive simmering is for. Bone broth is actually making a bit of a comeback today, but the rustic version we're discussing here is something that's just stuck to the pages of cookbooks now instead of the corners of our mind. Fried cornbread batter is what it sounds like, to be honest. It's a cornbread mix that involves no eggs or sugar, and it's spooned right into a hot skillet and fried like a pancake. And some people actually prefer the term corn dodgers because of this. Although, my personal favorite is hoe cakes. It depends on the region, and it's the same idea: the hot and crispy golden discs of fried corn. Goodness you get are indescribably amazing and rich. Plus, inside they're really soft and crumbly, while on the outside, they have those perfectly browned edges that you just want with every single bite. This was minimalist Southern food. Well, as minimal as anything can ever be in the South. It didn't originate in typical Southern communities, though. This was a dish that came right out of African American traditions, and it was passed down through several generations because of how effective it was at keeping you full. These days, you don't really see fried cornbread batter anywhere except barbecue joints that try to pay respect to their vintage roots. But with a dish this easy, bringing it back wouldn't take any work at all. So, one part of American culture that really never should have died off or leaned towards simplicity was fancy little holiday season variations like Christmas tree waffles. What were these? They were just your typical everyday waffles, same maple syrup, same time in the oven, same everything. But they had so much love poured into them. The idea here was to make it look like a Christmas tree, and people pulled out all the stops, the whole 9 yards, to make theirs resemble one as closely as possible. It even became like a community competition. That type of thing was so common to see in America during the 20th century, and it really added some personalization to the holiday season, which is sorely missing today. It was a way to have genuine fun with what you were eating and involved even kids in the cooking process. They'd love playing around with the frostings, sprinkles, and fruits so that they could have the most faithful Christmas tree pancakes on the block. Adults would similarly pour some real brain power into getting theirs to pop off. It was just a much more fun way to enjoy a classic we have every day in honor of Christmas, but nowadays, takeout culture and pre-made desserts from bakeries have replaced trends like that. People would rather make a charcuterie board over any decorative dessert today. Moving away from the sweets, sadly, and moving towards the greens. And by greens, I literally mean grass green. When times were hard, people needed to find resourceful ways to maintain a somewhat healthy diet. And that's what they did. Forget your local Trader Joe or Whole Foods and take a peek outside of your house or apartment building. What do you see? Just grass and weeds, right? Wrong! Those aren't just grass and weeds. That is your breakfast right there. During the Great Depression, people took locally sourced to a whole new level. Those pesky weeds you hate so much? That was the breakfast of our ancestors. Dandelion greens, though a bit bitter as far as I've heard, were packed with vitamins and minerals, and most important of all, they were free. People would pluck them straight from their yards, or a neighbor's yard if they weren't looking, and sauté them in a bit of bacon grease or whatever fat was available. The bitterness of the greens was tamed by scrambling them together with eggs, which added much-needed protein to the mix. I know some of you are already typing those angry comments like, "They were so poor that they had to eat grass, but they somehow had eggs?" And to that, I have to say, no. They most likely didn't have money for eggs, but a lot of people had their own chickens or knew somebody who did. And in tough times, people wanted to help each other as much as they could. There was something back then that is clearly lacking today, and that's a sense of community. But that's a topic for a different video. Toaster strudel, a sweet and convenient breakfast treat, first appeared in the early 1980s. This quick delight consists of flaky pastry filled with fruit or cream, toasted and topped with sweet vanilla glaze. Varieties like chocolate, cinnamon, and seasonal fruit keep it exciting. The type of icing traditionally used for toaster strudel is a sweet vanilla glaze, which adds a touch of indulgence to the crispy pastry. The treat became popular when it was embraced as an easy breakfast option by the Pillsbury Company. The brand's iconic Little Chef character helped promote toaster strudel as a fun and kid-friendly breakfast option. Toaster strudel was inspired by traditional Austrian pastries like Apfelstrudel, which were popularized in the United States by European immigrants in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Toaster strudel influenced breakfast trends, offering a quick and delicious option for busy mornings. Sauce is a dish that actually shows you just how much resourcefulness the working class had back then. The nose-to-tail mentality of people was really something that persisted throughout several centuries before coming to a close leading up to the 2000s. This is a dish that was incredibly averse to being typical. It was one of those things that was different not because it wanted to be, or because it was trying to be, but because it just really had to be. The cooked meat was something that was chopped, mixed with different kinds of vinegar and spices, and suspended in a natural gelatin as it cooled down. Served cold, thick, and in delicate little slices, it had a punch that really helped to balance out the flavors of the pork, with a texture that will keep you stimulated throughout the whole meal. This is a dish that shows you all the different flavors the American South really has to offer. Fruit cocktail in heavy syrup was a beloved component of breakfast and dessert menus, particularly during the 1970s. This mix of diced peaches, pears, grapes, pineapple, and cherries, all preserved in thick syrup, was a convenient and tasty addition to many meals. Del Monte and Libby's were leading brands, heavily marketing the product's ease of use and the sweet indulgence it offered. The syrup's rich flavor enhanced the appeal, making the fruit cocktail a quick solution for a sweet serving. In a time when convenience often trumped other considerations, this product stood out for its ability to deliver a variety of fruits in one easy package. Despite shifts in consumer preferences, it remained a practical and appealing choice for those looking for quick fruit options. Hot water fried cornmeal cakes are an old-school Southern staple that don't really get even half the love and attention they should these days. I just want you to visualize a crispy, golden brown cornmeal cake with the most incandescent exterior you've ever seen, and then a tender, soft center that just leaves you wanting more and more. But it's natural, and even good, to get curious. And when you hear hot water fried anything, your first instinct is to immediately go like, wait, what? And I really wouldn't blame you. The practice of making cornmeal cakes this way is something that actually goes back several centuries, right back to the enslaved African Americans in the South who were making the first versions of these. Without access to proper feed, not even leavening, they found a way to make do with just cornmeal and water, and these were also known by a much more popular name, hoe cakes. Now, in the end, they started to fall out of everyone's go-to cooking preferences, but I think cornmeal cakes have one more comeback in them, despite it all. As nice as it is, that was a trait that was absent from a lot of the food that you'd commonly associate with the 20th century. Take Johnny cakes, right? Pretty typical boomer dish that's been around for the better part of a century and has made more than a few hundred appearances at tables all over the nation. Yet, it's not here anymore, not at all. And the reason? It went away from mainstream diets because it was seen as old-fashioned. The trend and focus on cornmeal and corn in general dying out as people moved towards more vegetables like greens and sweet potatoes, and a lot more of a focus for wear-oriented baking, which is a step away from how cornmeal was used as a primary ingredient. The pancakes and breads of today are almost exclusively made with wheat. Then there's the whole public perception angle. This dish just isn't seen as luxurious or even endearingly rustic. It's most commonly associated with poor man's food, and that doesn't leave a good impression on people anymore, even though that couldn't be further from the truth. This thing had a lot of regional influence, and it served the people well, but the times haven't been kind to the recipe. Coffee soup, the liquid breakfast of the hard times. Coffee soup was one of the more unconventional Depression-era breakfasts, but it made sense when you think about the times. Coffee was cheap, which might come as a shocker since it is so expensive now. It was also widely available, so when families didn't have much to eat, they turned it into a meal. The recipe was dead simple. Pour a cup of strong, hot coffee over a slice of day-old bread or crackers, and there you have it, breakfast. Sometimes sugar or milk would be added if they were available, but more often than not, it was just coffee and bread. This was a quick and easy way to stretch a little coffee into something that felt a lot more filling than it looked. Coffee soup wasn't exactly gourmet, but it gave people the energy boost they needed to start their day, and it was a comforting routine when other breakfast options were out of reach. The bitter taste of coffee combined with the soft bread created a unique flavor that grew on you after a while. I am a coffee addict as much as the next person, maybe even more, but this may be the tipping point for me. But I guess it's kind of like a tiramisu, only without the cream filling, right? Maybe I would try it. God only knows it can never be too much coffee. Puffed wheat cereal, which was first created in the late 19th century, is a light and airy breakfast food that has been enjoyed for generations. The cereal, made from whole wheat grains, is typically enjoyed with milk or as a topping for yogurt. The process of making puffed wheat cereal involves exposing the grains to high pressure and heat, which causes them to expand and become light and crispy. Puffed wheat cereal was popularized by the Quaker Oats Company, which marketed the cereal as a healthy and nutritious breakfast option. Quaker puffed wheat was introduced in 1909 by the Quaker Oats Company, following the success of their puffed rice cereal. The cereal's unique light texture sets it apart from other breakfast cereals. In 1952, puffed wheat was one of the cereals featured in the first televised commercial for Quaker Oats, showcasing its versatility and appeal. Lastly, grilled grapefruit with maraschino cherries offered a unique blend of tart and sweet flavors, becoming a popular breakfast dish during the mid-20th century. The preparation involved having a grapefruit, sprinkling it with sugar, and broiling it until caramelized, then topping it with a maraschino cherry for added sweetness and visual appeal. This combination of flavors and the simple yet elegant presentation made it a sophisticated breakfast choice. The dish was often part of a larger breakfast spread, admired for its vibrant appearance and the delightful contrast of flavors. Its straightforward preparation allowed home cooks to easily create a gourmet-like dish, enhancing the breakfast experience with a touch of indulgence and culinary flair. A warm, unassuming bowl of grainy goodness, cracked wheat cereal evokes the flavor of Chili Farm mornings. A thick, slightly chewy cereal with a nutty, toasted flavor is created by cooking coarsely ground wheat kernels, also known as bulgur, or wheat farina, in water or milk. It has a rustic tang that lets you know this was once a whole grain that was plucked from the ground, and it's heartier than cream of wheat and less sweet than muesli. Simple toppings like a pat of butter, a tablespoon of brown sugar or molasses, and perhaps a dash of milk turn it from bland to comfortable without taking away from its healthy qualities. Besides being something that's entirely perfect for getting your gains in a healthy way, it's a dish that really just takes you for a spin when you eat it regularly. Suddenly your skin's doing better, you're putting on some muscle, you've probably never felt this fresh in a long while. It's a dish that's abundant with goodness, and that's a big part of why people would cling on to it as a reliable breakfast. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is really just make a bowl of cracked wheat cereal. Boiled barley porridge is one of those breakfasts that just feels like a pat on the back from a mentor, a hug from your best friend, or a call from your grandparents asking you to come over and try some of that breakfast you always love. It's also something that's built to last you at least until the middle of the day. You make boiled barley porridge by simmering hulled or pearl barley into water and milk, and then you get a soft, creamy texture that almost melts in your mouth. Flavor-wise, though, it's pretty nutty and kind of similar to oatmeal. You get a chewer bite and a bit more earthiness out of this, but it soaks up almost any kind of syrup or liquid you throw at it, as well as spices. That's a big part of why this dish is as flavorful as it is. We're talking about some serious ancient history when we discuss its origins, though, like this is the kind of thing that goes way further back, to the times of the Romans and medieval peasants. In the United States, it's something that was popular first in rural areas and immigrant homes, but each country has its own history with barley. Sometimes things just get old, and sometimes they just don't work. We've had our fair share of both, and scones with clotted cream and jam are a bit of a mix of the two. Now, US and UK cuisines don't generally tend to mix, even though we've had lots of crossovers in the past now. Scones with cream and jam, at least these ones that would use clotted cream, were the quintessential British snack. If your idea of John 32 from West Virginia is somebody in plaid or flannel getting real intimate with a hot dog, then your idea of Martin, 28 from Birmingham, is somebody in a blazer enjoying a scone. It's just what we associate with the people, you know? These scones were something that immigrants from the UK brought on over with them, and don't get me wrong, in their parts of the country where there would be large British-American presences, it definitely was something that got a lot of mileage. In other places, it just wasn't really that much of a hit, and clotted cream wasn't really something a lot of people had access to. Kind of a bummer when your core ingredient ends up being in short supply for the masses, but maybe this one staying a niche secret is a good thing. I'm not the biggest scone fan, after all, but this is all about you, so how do you feel about this little treat? I have quite a sweet tooth today, and I wish I could say that's because that time of the month is approaching. But, oh well, no excuses for me. Coming in on number 3, we have peanut butter muffins. This probably sounds familiar, and that is because you've most likely heard every health-oriented TikToker or Instagram influencer mention it at least once. It is quite popular in today's day and age, and not for bad reasons. But during the Great Depression, they weren't as luxurious as they are today. Quite the contrary, they were literal lifesavers. Peanut butter was cheap, packed with protein, and easy to store, making it a go-to ingredient for stretching meals. The muffins were a genius creation, made from simple pantry staples like flour, sugar, and a big scoop of peanut butter. They didn't need eggs or butter, which were often hard to come by, and they baked up into a hearty, slightly crumbly treat that filled you up for hours. The peanut butter provided a rich, nutty flavor, and you could eat them for breakfast, lunch, or as a snack, midday or midnight. They weren't just about the taste. They were supposed to give you strength for the day, and that's exactly what they did. They were a practical, budget-friendly way to get in as much protein as possible when times were tough. And come on, who doesn't love peanut butter in any way, shape, or form? Scrapple, a traditional Pennsylvania Dutch dish, dates back to the 17th century. It's a savory breakfast item made from pork scraps and cornmeal, formed into a loaf and fried. The dish uses specific animal parts like pork liver, heart, and trimmings, combined with cornmeal and spices, creating a unique flavor profile. Scrapple is usually fried and garnished with maple syrup or ketchup, making it versatile. Scrapple is considered one of the earliest forms of American comfort food, as it was created by German immigrants who settled in Pennsylvania. It's popular for its rich flavor and association with Pennsylvania Dutch culture. It became a regional specialty due to its resourcefulness and distinctive taste. Scrapple holds cultural significance as a testament to frugality and tradition, often served with eggs or toast. Fried salt pork with cornbread is a plateful of everything you like if you like bitter, salty tastes. Fat, frontier grit, and salt, this is the kind of food that made men out of boys. It's the kind of food that builds up muscle that isn't just for show, but the kind that gets railroads built. It's also the kind of food that people eat when they want to last through an especially aggressive winter. The salt pork gets heavily cured for preservation purposes, and it becomes streaked with fat. It's sliced into these thick strips and chunks, and then it's pan-fried until it's supremely crisp on the outside and really chewy in the middle. It tastes a bit like old bacon, especially the parts of it that are super salty and smoky. They have a very satisfying crunch, and they have a very lingering richness that just stays in your mouth. This is a combo that you would see a lot in the South and Appalachian regions, especially because salt pork was such an ideal way to preserve things. It is pretty much something everyone's grandparents have made at some point, despite now being something that's largely in the background. Honestly, the fact that nobody is talking about how good molasses toast is these days is certifiably criminal behavior. I just want you to picture hot toast, and I mean real, genuine bread, not packaged, factory-made fluff, but actual freshly baked bread with deep, dark molasses. Not the generic stuff you find in marts and stores nowadays, but actual molasses. Blackstrap, bitter, smoky, sweet, and punchy. This is something brown sugar wishes it could be. Molasses toast is something that was definitely the moment back when it was popular, and those were times when you would consider sugar a luxury. Most folks tried to get it on everything they possibly could, whether that was biscuits, cornbread, hot milk, pies, or toast. The first person to put that stuff on toast hit a gold mine, and everybody copied the blueprint afterwards. The toast was absolutely the move, and butter melting with the molasses created this perfect harmony of sweetness. The bread was the perfect stage for that. And if you had it today, you'd feel like you're going back through time to a farmhouse kitchen in the 40s. You can eat this toast as it is or mix it up with some honey and nuts if you really feel like bringing out your inner chef. Some people also double down on the sugar rush by adding cinnamon and vanilla extract. You know, for something called the Does Not Disappoint breakfast casserole, this couldn't live up to its name. It was made out of eggs, sausage, cheese, hash browns, and even bread. And yes, for those of you who are calorically observant, that is a dump truck of carbs. It also takes a lot of time to make. It can take an hour or more to get going, and if you get greedy and pop it out early, you just won't have a good-tasting breakfast. Also, this might seem odd to you, but Planned Parenthood is another thing. See, the trend these days is smaller and smaller families or married couples even putting off kids in favor of building a career together and getting their credit up. Back in the 20th century, it was the complete opposite. People had families of 4, 5, and even 6, and that goes for people living in uptown cities too. That was the norm, you know? Get married, have kids. As a result, most of the food you'll see from that era is extremely crowd-oriented. It's meant to feed several people, and that's why it takes a long while to make too. And that just doesn't fit the breakfast needs of the modern American, who's pretty much used to grabbing deli wraps on the way to their 9-hour shift. Staying on the sweet side of things, we'll be talking about the ultimate zero-waste recipe: banana bread. Back then, letting food go to waste was practically a crime against humanity, and banana bread was the best solution for those overripe bananas to be saved. Instead of tossing them, creative cooks found a delicious way to use them up. They mixed them with flour, sugar, and a bit of baking soda, and created a nice, dense loaf of heaven. Eggs and butter were optional, and people often replaced them with whatever fat they had lying around. The natural sweetness of bananas made it a budget-friendly alternative to other desserts. Plus, banana bread was highly versatile. You could throw in nuts, raisins, cinnamon, or whatever odds and ends you could scrape up to stretch it even further. Banana bread was one of those Depression-era foods that stuck around to this day, and it's for good reasons. It is the epitome of a sweet, delicious, but healthy treat that has got everyone in a chokehold. It is healthy and packed with nutrients, while still remaining tasteful and filling. No wonder all those cooking influencers are making banana bread every other day. Gee, show us another recipe. Blueberry buckle is a delightful breakfast pastry that originated in the early 20th century. The term buckle originated in the 19th century to describe fruit-studded cakes that buckled under the weight of their toppings during baking. This dish, typically enjoyed as a breakfast or brunch item, combines a moist cake base with fresh blueberries and a crumbly streusel topping. The ingredients for blueberry buckle include flour, sugar, butter, eggs, and fresh blueberries, creating a sweet and satisfying treat. Blueberry buckle became popular when it was embraced as a traditional breakfast pastry in the northeastern United States, where blueberries are plentiful. In Maine, blueberry buckle is celebrated with an annual festival featuring baking competitions, tastings, and live music, highlighting the state's rich blueberry heritage. Introduced in 1963, Sunny Delight positioned itself as a healthier alternative to sodas by offering a vitamin-enriched, citrus-flavored beverage that quickly captured the market's attention. Its bright color and sweet taste made it a hit among children, while its marketing campaigns emphasized a fun and active lifestyle, integrating Sunny D into scenes of youthful energy and outdoor activities. Despite its success, the brand encountered criticism for its high sugar content and low percentage of real juice, prompting several reformulations to increase authenticity and align with healthier consumer preferences. These changes allowed Sunny D to update its image and product offerings to better meet the expectations of modern consumers looking for healthier drink options. Beef drippings on toast are the quintessential middle-aged dad breakfast, and I'm referring to a really specific kind of dad too. Beer belly, loaded forearms built over a career of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, and the ability to fall asleep on a floor in jeans and eat literally anything. We all know the type. Beef drippings on toast were a breakfast that people largely made when they were low on materials for anything else. Toast is nice, but people have been hearing about it for literally centuries and, things just get old. People like to spice their toast up. It's only human. It's pretty much just what you would expect, too. Beef drippings are largely a byproduct of bacon and red meat cooking, and people like to scoop that up and preserve it as much as they could. You could pour it over beans, or just about anything, really. It was the kind of thing that would last you through several uncomfortable situations. Having to eat the same bland toast sounds pretty uncomfortable to me. It was also not as meaty or greasy as you would expect. It pretty much just tasted like your regular old beef. And this is what helped it to stay a consistent breakfast option throughout a lot of the 1950s and 1960s. Today, we're going to be diving into one of the most unexpected combinations from an old-school kitchen. Yup, fried apples and onions. Those sweet, tender apples and savory caramelized onions make for a much better meal than you would originally think. As they sizzle together in a skillet covered with buttery richness, the dish becomes the peak of comfort food when times are hard and you don't have much in the pantry. This dish is actually something that goes back all the way to the 19th century, specifically in the Appalachian and southern regions, where it was very common in kitchens to make the most of whatever was available. Apples were something that was plentiful, and onions were dirt cheap. So the combination made all the sense in the world when you looked at it from your wallet's point of view. Sweet potato egg bakes are kind of the same as the biscuits, because while they're really easy to make and they have enough flavor to justify a trip to the kitchen, they just don't have the same star power or enough health benefits for most people to keep the recipe on their roster for a long period of time. They're a mix of eggs, roasted sweet potatoes, cheese, and your favorite kind of vegetables. It involves a lot of layering since it's meant to resemble a typical casserole more than anything else. Unfortunately, that gives it the downsides of casseroles too, since those are always really hearty dishes you make to fill up an entire family. The upsides it has aren't as good as an actual cassie, so a lot of people debated just going straight for a typical casserole when they were making this over a few weeks. People eventually made the shift towards lighter breakfasts and left this recipe on the benches, never to be seen again in the mainstream. Post-fortified oat flakes were marketed as a health-oriented breakfast option, enriched with vitamins and minerals to appeal to health-conscious consumers. Introduced by Post cereals, they were promoted for their benefits like improved heart health and additional fiber, aligning with the increasing health trends of the mid-20th century. The oat flakes stood out for their nutritional value and were marketed through various campaigns emphasizing their health benefits. These flakes were known for their hearty texture, which provided a fulfilling start to the day, making them a favored choice for those looking to maintain a healthy diet. The focus on health and nutrition helped establish post-fortified oat flakes as a reliable breakfast option during their time on the market. Bread scramble is pretty much one of those moments of sheer creativity, resourcefulness, and making the most out of things that just would never go together if you were adhering to common sense. It's a throw-together breakfast if I've ever seen one. I mean, you would honestly be hard-pressed to not call this survivalist cooking. It's exactly what you might think it is, too. Torn up pieces of bread that's either a day old at best or several at worst tossed up into a hot skillet. Add some butter and bacon grease, then scramble it up to high heaven with some eggs. People would typically add whatever scraps they could to make the meal stand out a bit more. They'd add leftover ham, onions, and different kinds of herbs, and flavor-wise, just think of it like a bread-based omelet. It actually soaks up a lot of the eggs and fat, so it's definitely a lot more flavorful than you would expect, and it gets the job done well enough from what is essentially a very impromptu breakfast. Probably end up with a nasty case of heartburn if you use this recipe regularly, though. Cat Head biscuits, on the other hand, are this southern classic that takes next to nothing to make and are a recipe that everyone and their mother is a little too familiar with. These thick, fluffy, and generously sized biscuits only need your most everyday pantry staples. Just a bit of flour, butter, milk, and baking powder will take care of your preparation needs. There's also a reason they're named after cat heads, and it's thanks to the disproportionate size of the biscuits when compared to other recipes. On the flip side, that made them perfect for binging, especially as a snack while TV time was happening or as a quick and easily munchable breakfast. The thing is, this dish has everything going for it except one aspect. You can't take any shortcuts when it comes to cat head biscuits, and as good as a dish might be, it would never last in the face of convenience culture, which was slowly sweeping up American diets one by one, state by state in its new easy-to-sustain diets. French toast with powdered sugar, also known as pain perdu in France, is a beloved breakfast dish dating back to the 4th or 5th century. It involves dipping bread in a mixture of eggs and milk, then frying it until golden brown. Traditionally, it's served with powdered sugar, though various toppings like fruit or syrup can be added. The bread choice impacts the dish, with brioche or challah being popular for their rich texture and flavor. The name pain perdu means lost bread, as it originally used stale bread to prevent waste. Unique toppings such as cream or savory ingredients have added variety to this classic. In the U.S., Julia Child popularized French toast, cementing its place in American cuisine and making it a household staple. Her televised cooking show, The French Chef, played a significant role in introducing French toast to a wider American audience. Mutton sausages are these super earthy, super robust, and unapologetically meaty dishes that offer an entire world of flavor for those willing to traverse its savory depths. They're grounded until they are extremely coarse, and the chew is something that lets you know you're eating something with a lot of flavor in it. Speaking of flavor, this is something that strikes a lot of unique notes. It's grassy, a bit gamey, and extremely savory, but it's seasoned in a very different way. You have blends of parsley, garlic, pepper jack, allspice, even nutmeg in there. People would also make really traditional blends with things like rosemary, black pepper, garlic, and a bit of vinegar. When you would cook these, the fat would slowly render out, and this would baste the meat internally, making it an incredible flavor festival for meat lovers. Oatmeal water porridge is something that sounds like it's ripped right out of a Depression-era cookbook, but that's only because it really is. It was supposed to be this zero-wastage dish that would inspire people to make the most out of the least, but it didn't really go past poor farming communities and immigrant-dense areas. What it was good for was digestion, though, because this was insanely light on the stomach, while also being really filling. So the parents that did know about this would make it obsessively for their children, and back then, kids were a lot more cool about putting up with oatmeal. It was also perfect sick person food. Plus, even if none of that applied to a person back then, they'd still probably be living paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes oatmeal helps when it's not payday yet. The point being that everyone had a run-in with this at some point, but only a select few communities made a thing out of it regularly. Oatmeal water porridge is just oats simmered in plain water too, so it makes sense why it didn't go too far in the broader world. You don't have milk, sugar, or any extras here, and it was pretty much the definition of what you would call frugal. It was used in times when dairy was really unavailable and money just wasn't there, and texture-wise, it's a lot thinner than you can imagine. All that to say, it's likely not the most appealing bite. Competition from the citrus side of things is unexpected when you think about cranberry orange muffins beating out the largest pancakes you've ever seen, but anything's known to happen during lunch in America. The thing with those was that they didn't really give us too much over what we already had, but this is a stellar example of how to do exactly that just right. It was a staple in cafes, homes, and even bakeries, and really, it dying out is no fault of its own. Sometimes it's just a sign of the times and changing trends that knocks these winners off of their thrones and leaves them in the dust. Does that mean this is a recipe that isn't worth your time? Not at all, especially if it got its rep during the 70s, where good and new food was definitely not in short supply. You don't even have to worry about the seasonal thing anymore since you can just get oranges throughout the year now. It's probably still got some die-hard fans in a few areas here and there, but cranberry and orange as a combination lost steam throughout the later half of the 20th century. Breakfast in a can is a quirky and convenient dish that emerged in the early 20th century. This all-in-one meal includes ingredients like beans, sausage, eggs, or pancakes, all packed into a can for easy prep. The convenience and versatility of this dish have made it a favorite among campers, hikers, and outdoor enthusiasts. During World War II, breakfast in a can became popular among soldiers as a portable and shelf-stable option for breakfast in the field. The type of meat commonly used in breakfast in a can varies, but it often includes sausage or bacon, providing a savory and filling meal. Breakfast in a can showcases the potential for ready-to-eat meals. Despite its humble origins, breakfast in a can continues to be enjoyed today as a convenient and satisfying breakfast option for people on the go. Mapo Instant Maple Oatmeal set itself apart in the competitive oatmeal market with its unique maple flavor and the ease of instant preparation. Introduced in 1953, it became especially popular among families for its appealing taste and the memorable marketing character Marky Mapo, which resonated with children. The convenience of just adding hot water made Mapo a preferred choice for quick breakfasts, aligning well with the growing demand for efficient meal solutions. The distinctive maple flavor offered a sweet, comforting taste that stood out from more traditional oatmeal flavors, making Mapo a notable option in the breakfast category, favored for its taste and quick preparation. Stewed dried apples are something that smell like an old kitchen in the middle of fall. I'm talking about warm colors, scents, spices, and fruity notes galore. The apples are leathery slices, but you can also cut them up into the shape of rings for some extra visual flair. They get simmered really slowly in water, and when they plump back to life, they start to go really tender. These are super chewy at their core, and sugar, cinnamon, or just a little bit of clove will give them that extra weight they're missing. Stewed dried apples have been a pantry essential across many centuries, but particularly the 19th century in Southern America. That's because drying apples was the most standard way of keeping them all right before refrigeration came along. Let's talk crackling cornbread. This is the cornbread that absolutely doesn't mess around. Like, this is the supersonic of cornbread. This is that rugged, crispy-edged cousin of your typical cornbread muffin, and it brings with it all the rustic charm that cornbread is always known for. Cracklin' cornbread has always come from the innovative kitchens of the working class, and this is especially true in the South, where using anything less than all of the hog was considered culinary blasphemy. Wasting fat? You may as well hang up your butcher knife. It was about no waste, and cracklins were a prime example of why that mentality worked. These were gold, and stirring them into cornbread only made them shine brighter. It made the bread a lot more filling and gave it extra protein, and you needed that because if you were coming back from a day of shoveling mud, then you definitely needed something for those muscles. It was a proper lunch though, and it was even better with some fresh greens on the side. Cracklin' cornbread is something that pretty much has faded into the background nowadays, but it was the perfect kind of thing for when you had nothing but a skillet, an empty stomach, and a lot of grit and determination to make something worth eating. It's a 10 out of 10 for a lot of Southerners, and nothing's really changing that. These size extra large pancakes, on the other hand, have all the star power you could want in something that migrates its way from German tables to American couches. Dutch baby pancakes are exactly how you make a first impression on a foreign audience. Appeal to the familiar, bring in the new, and find a balance between both. Flavors that Americans typically hadn't ever associated with pancakes were suddenly on the cards for them, and that went for textures too, because this really didn't feel like any pancake your mom would whip up or one available in a diner. These needed a preheated oven and had to be baked for a lot longer. One pancake per person isn't the rule here. This is very much a group meal. Unfortunately, you have to have a lot of confidence in your recipe if your aim is to shake up America's love for its convenient pancake-oriented breakfasts. These pancakes weren't as customizable because they couldn't be mixed directly into the batter, and they took a lot more time to make than regular ones did. Americans think of pancakes as a quick, perfect breakfast before work, and that's the situation they often find themselves craving one in. This did not fit that memo, and for a few more reasons, like competition from other, more convenient and trendier options of the era, Dutch baby pancakes fell off. The malted milk drink, a sweet and nostalgic beverage, first appeared in the late 19th century. This creamy delight is made from milk, malt powder, and sometimes ice cream, blended into a refreshing treat. The drink was invented by William Horlick, who patented malted milk powder in 1887 as a nutritious supplement for infants and invalids. It was popularized by brands like Horlicks, which marketed it as a nutritious and tasty option. Unusual flavors or variations of the malted milk drink include chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla, adding to its appeal. In the early 20th century, malted milk was touted as a health tonic and was even recommended by doctors for its nutritional benefits. The drink inspired a love for creamy and sweet drinks, often enjoyed as a quick breakfast on the go. Ever wondered why Maxwell House Instant Coffee, launched way back in 1892, became synonymous with American mornings? Founded in 1892, its memorable slogan, "Good to the last drop," helped carve its niche in American coffee culture. The brand leveraged traditional, comforting imagery in its marketing, enhancing its appeal as a reliable household staple. Despite the rise of fresher, artisanal coffee options, Maxwell House expanded its line to include premium varieties, adapting to broader tastes. This strategy aimed to maintain relevance amid changing consumer preferences, focusing on providing quality and convenience. Maxwell House's efforts to update its product offerings were crucial in addressing the evolving demands of the coffee-drinking public. The classic simple snack plate consists of salty, greasy, and unpretentious sardines and crackers. With just a little pressure, The soft, flaky sardines, which can be packed in oil, mustard, tomato sauce, or even fiery chilies, will surrender. They have a strong marine flavor that is more akin to a preserved richness that has been mellowed by time and oil than it is to fresh fish. Crackers provide the sardines the crunch and blandness they need to counterbalance their aggressiveness. The combination is still modest and incredibly fulfilling, even with the addition of a dollop of mustard, a splash of spicy sauce, or even a few thin slices of onion. This pairing was a classic lunchbox or supper standby throughout the 20th century, especially during the Great Depression, wartime rationing, and the working-class boom of the 1950s. Sardines were shelf-stable, high in protein, and inexpensive, making them a go-to for mill workers, fishermen, factory hands, and anyone needing a quick, filling bite. Served with saltines or butter crackers, they required no cooking, no refrigeration, and no fuss. Some folks even kept a can in their coat pocket for lunch on the job. Some of the most popular brands of sardines back then were Beechcliff, Brunswick, and Underwood. And some of these are still putting out the same sardines today. If you want to really stick to the recipe, there's no better time to do it than now. I think the most intimate food experience for anyone from the South is easily just hominy grits. Like, these are definitely a Southern ride or die as far as breakfast is considered. Creamy, loaded with corn and customizable in about 1,000 different ways, there's a lot that hominy grits bring to the table that other dishes just don't seem to compare to. And that too on a budget. They're made from hominy, which is essentially just dried corn that's been treated with an alkaline solution and then grounded into coarse grits. And when cooked slowly with water, milk, and broth, they actually turn into this incredibly thick, fantastic porridge that's worth its weight in gold. What makes hominy grits really stand out is their sheer versatility, though. I mean, the possibilities are quite literally endless. You can go the savory route or the super sweet route, and all you have to do is just add a bit more of whatever spices, seasonings, and herbs you're working with. Hominy grits are so effective largely because they were a Native American creation. The tribes were making hominy a long time before any Europeans set foot on American soil, and they helped to popularize the tradition, which is how it turned into a go-to for Southern kitchens by the 19th century. Unfortunately, across this list, you'll find all sorts of final nails in various coffins. For malasadas, it was just competition and bad PR. This Portuguese banger involves fried donuts that are really rich and decadent, but also really heavy and a little hard to make. You can kind of see where I'm going with this already, can't you? The thing is, Americans are pretty much creatures of habit. If you try to break away from that habit, you better be offering up gold on a plate. But if your plate consists of fried donuts with more of a regional appeal in states like Hawaii, then you might not make the cut. Another thing about Hawaii is its thriving Portuguese community, so a dish like this was always right at home there. But what about everywhere else? People thought it took a lot of work to make this dish, which would also leave you feeling pretty sluggish and bloated. Plus, the short shelf life really didn't help matters. People are used to their donuts lasting a long while, but with malasadas, the texture and flavor would go up in smoke pretty quick if you just let them catch dust on a table, and eating all that in one go was never really ideal, especially if we're talking about a work day. Mix that in with the whole wave of healthy eating, and you can understand where the bad PR side of things comes from here. Kugel spread on toast was a quirky and delightful dish first created in the early 1970s. The dish consists of kugel, a flavored peanut butter spread slathered on toast. Kugel came in various unique flavors like chocolate, vanilla, cinnamon, and banana, making it a playful alternative to regular peanut butter. The spread, manufactured by Kraft, became popular due to its unique and sweet flavors, which appealed to children and adults alike. The most popular flavor of Kugel spread was chocolate, which was often enjoyed as a sweet breakfast treat or snack. Kugel was discontinued in the late 1970s due to declining sales. Remember Quisp cereal? Launched by Quaker Oats in 1965, this cereal brought a whole new level of fun to the breakfast table with its alien mascot and saucer-shaped pieces. It quickly won over children with its sugary flavor and captivating animated commercials that made breakfast fun. the cereal's unique branding and playful design were key differentiators in a crowded market. Despite its initial success, the shift towards healthier breakfast options posed challenges for Quisp, leading to its eventual status as a nostalgic item brought back periodically to appeal to adults who had grown up with it. This strategic shift in marketing to tap into nostalgia, combined with occasional updates to its formula, allowed Quisp to maintain interest among former fans while navigating the complexities of modern cereal markets. Fatback and Grits is pretty much something you would always identify as Southern comfort food. It's just something that's always been so heavily associated with the South, and that's for a good reason. Southern restaurants, families, churches, charity organizations, and a lot more have relied on this because it's just that good at what it does. You get an extremely soul-sustaining dish that's very popular in the rural South, and in farming communities, it's a gold mine. This is something that's also considered treasure among sharecroppers. But really, why is everyone putting all their stocks into this? Well, fatback was just an inexpensive and convenient way to preserve pork. And I mean seriously preserve it, something that was this valuable of a protein source needed to go all the extra miles it could, and the people of America were all about making it last as long as possible. Grits would be made from ground hominy corn, and a lot of farmsteads and rural communities back then had their own practices of growing corn derived from Native American techniques and farming methods. Nowadays, fatback and grits just isn't something you see much in America anymore. But if you go for rustic, vintage Southern joints, you can find some authentic recipes. Most restaurants serve refined versions of this old classic now, though. So keep that in mind if you're looking to vlog a very faithful rendition of this dish. So we're going to start our list off with a classic that everyone's familiar with. Stale bread pancakes, and you might be surprised how people made pancakes out of bread, but it's an interesting little process that'll show you just how resourceful we really could be. They're also surprisingly tasty, and the idea here is to soak slices or cube-sized chunks of stale bread in milk, and when even that's not available, water, then mash it up with eggs. You need a little bit of flour for this to work, and whatever extra flair you want to add to it is your own preference. Personally, I always go for some honey. These pancakes are something that isn't just exclusive to American tables either. They're a tradition that stretches from so many different cultures across the world that it's simply just a grandpa meal now. Plus, flavor-wise, these go with any kind of game plan. You can sprinkle some cheese, throw in different kinds of herbs like parsley and oregano for a more aromatic pancake, or go savory with salt and pepper. Everything works, and they're awfully cheap, so why not? Speaking of breakfast, have you ever heard of dippy eggs? Pretty popular little dish, featuring runny yolks as the star of the show, but not something you'd find in any cookbook today. Americans are a little bad when it comes to sanitary practices with food because the runny yolk aspect actually triggered salmonella in some people and a widespread fear in most. Despite how you can actually avert the risk entirely if you just follow the recommended ways to cook it. You pair that with dippy eggs, taking really precise timing to get that consistency for the yolk, and you get a dish that's more intimidating than it is inviting. Even if people knew how to tune down the risk of catching a grade A disease, they weren't sure if they could nail the timing each and every breakfast. There were a lot easier things to dip your toast in, and they were definitely quicker to prepare. If you were an egg person, there was a plethora of other egg-based dishes you could go for instead, so there was never really much incentive towards this. Cold potato with an onion salad was basically the chic way to go vegetarian back then. The dish had a subtle charm that heavily relied on the texture and seasoning. It was also ideally served chilled, because, well, science. I'm just kidding, but basically, the starch starts to firm up. This gives the potato a much more dense and sometimes waxy bite that contrasts really well with the creamy dressings. It also works spectacularly with the flavors present in an onion salad, which honestly adds the perfect crunchy element. Cold potatoes can feel like a mush fest after a few bites, so having some alternative textures in there really helps smoothen everything along. Historically, cold potato and onion salad is something we likely derived from 18th century Europe. This is a pretty traditional recipe in German and French circles, and leftover boiled potatoes were always dressed in oil, vinegar, and herbs so that waste could be avoided. American potato salads are something that evolved from these traditions, and they gained a lot of popularity by the time of the 20th century as a potluck, picnic, and community dinner staple. Milk toast is also pretty much exactly what you think it is. Back in the old days, it was so much more common for people to take an intentionally frugal approach to how they spent their food, and especially the kind of hacks, snacks, and dishes they would come up with. All of these ideas were centered around being able to make the most using the least amount of time, energy, and ingredients possible. Milk toast is one of the best examples of that because imagine if you tried to make the most out of some milk or some bread before it was about to hit those pearly gates and become fully expired. Yeah? You can't really figure out what to do because while you'd normally just eat them on their own separately, this time that doesn't work. You just go ahead and get milk toast ready. The best part is that it works in 3 different ways. You get a nice healthy meal that's a pretty good breakfast or an interlude meal before your next big meal. You get to save money because you're not letting anything go to waste, nor are you buying something new because these ingredients are probably on their last legs, and you get a pretty lovely dessert out of it too. What's not to like, really? It's kind of insane how convenient milk toast can really be. Here's another evident case of something losing to its betters: caramel rolls. Much like how Dutch baby pancakes lost in the long run to the standard, nostalgic, and ever so timeless regular pancake, caramel rolls could never overtake cinnamon rolls. They were pretty good for what they were, and they even made a pretty decent name for themselves in cafes and bakeries. Caramel rolls had it all initially. They were really nice. They had sweetness, nice packaging, good marketing, all the things you'd need to really get yourself out there in the wider world. Unfortunately, there were a few reasons they just fell a little short of cementing themselves as a staple of American eating and baking that would last well into the 2000s. They were also messy and hard to make, and while the sweetness was a plus point, it also made them really calorically dense and bad for you in the larger picture of things. See, by this point in time, the American masses were glucose veterans. They went through ice cream parlors, soda fountains, the golden age of fast food chains, and so many other things that really racked up the damage they were doing to their bodies just through their diets. As a result, as time kept going on, people started to abandon things like this which were just excessive. Plus, good old cinnamon rolls do the job so much better, and they're not really that bad for you as long as you keep it under control. Waffles with chicken is a classic Southern dish that beautifully combines savory and sweet flavors, first appearing in the 1930s. This dish pairs crispy fried chicken with fluffy waffles. The ingredients include chicken, flour, eggs, and buttermilk for the waffles, while the chicken is coated in seasoned flour before frying to golden perfection. The waffle batter is cooked in a waffle iron, resulting in a tender texture. Maple syrup is usually paired with this dish, enhancing the flavor combo. Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles helped popularize it, introducing this delicacy to a wider audience and solidifying its place in American food history. This iconic restaurant chain was established in Los Angeles in 1975 and quickly became famous for this unique dish. Curious how Jiffy Pop pancakes made morning meals a breeze with their just add water mix during the hectic 70s. This convenience resonated deeply with the 1970s households, streamlining the morning routine remarkably. The product's simplicity allowed anyone to quickly whip up pancakes, making it a popular choice among families with busy schedules. Jiffy Pop's marketing cleverly focused on these time-saving aspects, often showcasing family breakfasts that were both delicious and hassle-free. The mix was versatile, catering to various taste preferences with different flavors. While Jiffy Pop pancakes enjoyed popularity due to their convenience and taste, the evolving breakfast market eventually led to reduced visibility and presence, as newer breakfast options continued to diversify. Ham and red-eye gravy is something that's considered a Southern classic. It has a really bold, salty personality, and it's a very no-nonsense flavor profile as well. This is a dish that takes country ham, which is typically dry-cured and goes the pan-frying route. The idea is to fry it until you see those dark brown edges crisping up in the pan. After that, you get an incredible flavor explosion in the form of concentrated pork drippings, and these then take a further unexpected turn. You start to pour in strong black coffee. Now I know you're about to fast forward 10 seconds, but hear me out, okay? The result isn't creamy or thick like you would expect. The coffee ends up deglazing the pan, and it creates this super thin reddish-brown gravy that has an unmistakable sheen to it. The result is a punchy, smoky, and bitter-tasting gravy, but not overwhelmingly bitter, and the coffee cuts through a lot of the richness of the ham fat. This is something you would see so commonly among rail workers in Tennessee and Alabama, especially if it was in the afternoon hours. The caffeine really helped with the job. Lard biscuits are pretty much the heroes of old-school baking. If you actually look at it from a historical lens, these unapologetically flavorful biscuits have kept way more bellies full than something like turnips. No, but really, lard biscuits have been a generational safety net for when a hunger pang is about to turn a bad day into a bad week. Lard biscuits were the go-to in Southern kitchens for the longest time, even before butter became a staple ingredient in the area. Folks would keep tins of drippings on the stove, but most of the lard was preserved, not because people had to ration it or because they were running awfully short, but because they just liked it that much. Lard biscuits are something you don't see around anymore, but during several of the past few centuries, as well as notable periods like the Great Depression and the World Wars, lard biscuits were man's best friends. So eggs in a hole, on the other hand, were a classic that was seen exactly as a dish for at least middle-class homes and people who knew their way around a kitchen. A bit of presentation and flair, and it's a wonder what people will start seeing you as. I guess glow-ups and appearances matter even for food, don't they? Looks-wise, this was an appetizing little dish thanks to the egg cooked inside the cutout piece of bread. It gave it a real air of, yeah, this is fancy to it, which was nice at the time, although something like this would still be seen as just okay now. Despite the cover, this book's actually pretty simple, which was also its downfall. Sometimes you need a bit of complexity to give you an edge over the competition, and sometimes sticking to the simple roots, the tried and tested methods and flavors, is exactly what a dish needs to remain top dog. Both sides of the spectrum have cases of recipes that took the memo a little too strongly to heart and ended up paying for it. Eggs in a hole were considered too simple as tastes leaned more and more towards what we have now, in modern America. And it fell out of favor with the people when trendier and more visually appealing breakfasts started popping out. Things like smoothie bowls, rice bowls, avocado toast, and the like. One of those was a rice and molasses bowl, which is the kind of dish that just inspires gentle waves of nostalgia in you. It's something that's drizzled with thick, dark molasses. The molasses, which makes for a very bittersweet, smoky bite with sweet undertones, tends to seep into the grains. This actually gives them such a nice autumn-coated color that really just makes you want to set up your best sheet in a park, call a few friends, and enjoy the small things in life. Historically, though, this was nothing that was so romantic. It was a poor man's breakfast and dessert, especially in most parts of the South and the Appalachian regions. It was very common to see among working-class Northeasterns in the 18th century, and it was something that was relied on to stretch ingredients when things were running low. This is because molasses was always really cheap and bought in bulk, and if people weren't growing their rice, they were stocking up on as much as they could. Rice, molasses, and different kinds of bowls are now bygones of different times, but they were really good. Vinegar pie for breakfast is something that really just doesn't even sound like a real meal. It honestly sounds like some kind of prank, but no. This is a very real dish, and it actually works in more ways than one. For starters, this doesn't really taste the way you think it would. I know you're imagining some really bitter, acidic notes from the vinegar, but the initial flavor beats are sweet tart, and they give off a very custardy vibe. It's a bit like a lemon chess pie, but just made with your typical pantry staples instead this time. The vinegar is the star of the show, as it should be, and it cuts through almost every other flavor present in the pie, but not to the point where you would think all you can taste here is just vinegar. It's rich, It has this tangy brightness that actually is very stimulating for your taste buds, and if you pair it up with some hot coffee, then it works as well as Bruno Mars does with Anderson .Paak. Vinegar pie is something that strangely, despite being a pretty innovative and flavorful hit, is something that would be called a desperation pie because it's something that was made mostly by the women of the South and the Midwest living in rural populations. Cowboy breakfasts were definitely something to cherish when they were the heart and soul of American breakfasts, especially around the frontier and the South. But now, very much like the infamous outlaws themselves, their time has passed. People today go for lighter meals. They want health-conscious things that make their skin glow, give them a basket full of vitamins, and help keep their body in tune. That's just not anything you'd ever picture being used to describe a cowboy breakfast, which was typically full of things like fried bacon and eggs, biscuits and hash browns and whatnot. There was definitely a focus on using whatever you had on hand with the cowboy breakfast, which makes sense since actual cowboys lived a pretty nomadic lifestyle, using whatever they could find in the wild as a breakfast or a stew. Still, even that couldn't really keep it running because whether or not this is how actual cowboys ate, for people, the whole breakfast wasn't complete without a hefty serving of greasy stuff on a bed of eggs. Over time, that wasn't a sustainable breakfast at all, especially when there was healthier, lighter, and greener stuff out there, which was also a lot easier to make. So fried cornmeal mush with syrup was this really golden, crispy edge throwback to times where meals like this counted as a wonderful breakfast. It was made from what was essentially just a chilled polenta, or otherwise known as cornmeal mush. You would slice these into thick slabs, pan-fry them until the outside was a complete crackling crust, and then the inside would stay really soft, dense, and creamy. Topping these with a bit of drizzle, sorghum and maple would complete the experience, and you would be enjoying a beautiful contrast of textures, flavors, and the crunchiness of it all. Cornmeal is a deeply hearty dish. It's something that sticks with you, and the nutty flavors help with that. This was a dish that was so common amongst Midwestern farm families and Southern homes throughout the 1800s and 1940s, and that was partially because cornmeal was so abundant that people just made up different versions of similar dishes. You will find it in old cookbooks, certain off-road diners that really try to stick to the whole mid-90s vibe, and Southern homes, but it's largely something that just doesn't get much traction anymore. Even still, cornmeal mush was amazing and deserves to have its name in the Hall of Fame of easy, convenient breakfasts you can rely on. Ever wonder why corned beef hash became such a breakfast staple, especially during the bustling post-war era? It combined diced corned beef, potatoes, and spices, all canned for convenience. Typically served with eggs or toast, this meal option was a quick, hearty solution for families on the go. Promoted by brands like Hormel and Libby's, its marketing highlighted the ease of preparation and robust flavor, appealing to those with limited time for cooking. These advertising efforts often portrayed corned beef hash as the hero of the busy morning, saving time without sacrificing taste. The product maximized American values of efficiency and practicality, fitting perfectly into the fast-paced lifestyle of its consumers. It continued to be recognized for its convenience and satisfying taste. Salted herring with potatoes is a dish that is built entirely on contrast. The briny meets the bland, and strong undertones meet soft aftertastes. The herring itself is something that's preserved in brine, right? So it's deeply flavored. It's firm when it comes to the flesh, it's slightly oily, and that tang isn't for everyone. But an honest-to-God seafood lover is going to enjoy the life out of it. The dish itself is something that's most commonly served cold, slightly warmed, or just with a side of elegant mashed potatoes. As elegant as they can be when they're made by a frustrated mom who just wants to get the table set up, really. A bit of chopped onion, sour cream, and dill, and you'll be remembering your mom's cooking soon enough. You know, salted herring with potatoes has always been something that's deeply considered a working-class regular, especially in the American Midwest and Northeast. It was so common to see this in coastal communities where fresh fish were always abundant. Preservation was something even kids could tell you about. Salted herring let families eat protein year-round, and potatoes were cheap and easy to grow, and they could be made into 1,000 different things. Johnny cakes with sorghum syrup are just straight-up comfort food from a time when breakfast was this familial thing everybody looked forward to, and when breakfast was entirely made from scratch. Johnny cakes are these rustic little cornmeal pancakes that are actually very no-nonsense. None of the fluff, flair, and aesthetic charm you would normally associate with pancakes. Do you know that super cozy vibe they give off? Just not there this time. Johnny cakes are coarse, they're not the eBay when it comes to presentation, and they actually have this very deep, toasty corn flavor that pairs almost a little too well with the smokiness and richness of sorghum syrup. You can either use this in a dipping cup or drizzle it on top, but let's be real, the dipping cup is sacred. Anything else is blasphemy. Johnny cakes also have something of a history that goes back all the way to the indigenous peoples. They were the first ones to teach colonists how you handle cornmeal and how you should cook with it, and they were made to mirror the effects of other popular survivalist Native American food, such as pemmican. Its main function was lasting on long journeys and providing you with a boost of energy to carry on with your travels. Œuf en cocotte in the exotic tongue of the French, or as the rest of the world knows it, shirred eggs, were actually one of those egg-based alternatives that I was talking about, though it wasn't really the go-to choice. You're about to find out why too. See, shirred eggs sound fancy, smell fancy, and they definitely need a chef with fancy skills to really make something out of them. Now, what do we have when we consider the state of home cooking and home chefs in America? Don't get me wrong, there are people here that Gordon Ramsay would probably recruit on the spot. But for every one Michelin star restaurant-level chef, we have 10 home cooks that just want to get a meal in and carry on with their day. Unfortunately, in a climate like that, shirred eggs were always bound to die out. It was a complicated dish that took a lot more work than just scrambling some eggs or making it sunny side up, and it lost public favor almost entirely when canned food, pre-made food, and frozen food started to overtake breakfasts for Americans. Sadly, this little trooper couldn't keep it going in the face of all that and eventually got lost in the history books. Rice Krispies Treats for Breakfast is a playful and inventive dish that originated in the mid-20th century. In 1940, Kellogg's introduced Rice Krispies cereal, and soon after, recipes for Rice Krispies Treats began appearing on the cereal box, contributing to their widespread popularity. This fun treat consists of Rice Krispies cereal mixed with melted marshmallows and butter, shaped into bars. Rice Krispies give it a light and crispy texture, while toppings like chocolate chips, peanut butter, or colorful sprinkles make it festive. The treats gained popularity when families began enjoying them as a playful snack, beloved by both children and adults. Their airy texture and gooey sweetness set them apart from other cereal-based treats. Rice Krispies Treats showcase the potential for creative and indulgent snacks, reflecting the joy of childhood and the endless possibilities of breakfast. The liver and onions breakfast fry is a strong, unapologetic dish that comes at you with iron, fat, and attitude, which is what the morning needs. Liver slices, practically always beef or pork, are lightly floured and pan-fried, just shy of crunchy on the outside. Tender on the inside, it's all liver, undeniably. Rich, metallic, slightly sweet, extremely savory. Soft onions, caramelized along with or sautéed separately in the same skillet, add a sweetness that balances all that intensity. Often deep-fried in bacon grease or lard, the whole plate is smoky and salty, the depth of flavor more medicinal than indulgent. Some versions add eggs or grits on the side, but the liver and onions are the point. Protein-forward, greasy. It's something that's undeniably as rustic as it is protein-filled. If you like spending your Saturday morning riding the meat express to flavor heaven, then this is definitely a dish for you. Historically, though, this was a meal that people ate when they really needed fuel for all the digging, shoveling, and hauling of the day. Liver was something you could get for a dime a dozen from local butcher shops, and everybody wanted to take advantage of that fact. Eggless pancakes. So the first time you hear that, you just automatically think that there's no real reason why these should exist because what's next? Brickless buildings? But really, eggless pancakes have been around for far longer than you would think. This is especially true for lean periods like the Great Depression or wartime rationing in the 1940s, and a lot of eggs back then were actually decently more expensive than people could afford, or they just weren't available because somebody who could afford them likely scooped most of them up. COVID-era bulk buying wasn't really an isolated event, I guess. Most recipes would essentially just rely on baking powder for the fluff and use some kind of oil or milk along with flour. Old-school versions, and I mean proper vintage recipes, would even include mashed bananas, vinegar, and some applesauce, and that's some proper veganism if you ask me. Eggless pancakes have largely faded into the background now, but they were definitely one of the most affordable meals our grandparents grew up with back in the day. Cream of wheat, on the other hand, is a pretty classic cereal that was made using wheat flour, but you had to grind this to hell and back for the dish to work. Hot cereals as a whole were a little bit more popular in the past than they are today, but lots of things have kept up, and that's why it's still a presence today. You have things like oatmeal hot cereal, which is pretty much people's go-to nowadays thanks to the massive health benefits. I mean, how many YouTubers do you really need to see with thumbnails and clickbait titles about how oatmeal solves every modern medical issue of the 21st century? Or how many Instagram reels from gym bros analyzing the nutritional value? Everyone knows how good it is, and cream of wheat doesn't have even half the same pull in that regard. It's good for getting your carbohydrates in, but that's pretty much it. Plus, the feeling of eating cream of wheat cereal is a little too close for comfort to porridge, which is a texture that you don't see anymore in modern dishes. Rice Krispies Treats for Breakfast is a playful and inventive dish that originated in the mid-20th century. In 1940, Kellogg's introduced Rice Krispies cereal, and soon after, recipes for Rice Krispies Treats began appearing on the cereal box, contributing to their widespread popularity. This fun treat consists of Rice Krispies cereal mixed with melted marshmallows and butter, shaped into bars. Rice Krispies give it a light and crispy texture, while toppings like chocolate chips, peanut butter, or colorful sprinkles make it festive. The treats gained popularity when families began enjoying them as a playful snack, beloved by both children and adults. Their airy texture and gooey sweetness set them apart from other cereal-based treats. Rice Krispies Treats showcase the potential for creative and indulgent snacks, reflecting the joy of childhood and the endless possibilities of breakfast. Chipped beef on toast, affectionately known as SOS, is a dish rooted in military history, featuring dried beef in a creamy sauce over toast. Simple and cost-effective, it became a staple in U.S. military mess halls for its quick assembly and satisfying nature. This dish's straightforward preparation, combining a roux-based sauce with rehydrated beef slices, made it a popular choice in civilian kitchens, especially among families with military backgrounds. Variations included substituting dried beef with ground beef or sausage, and biscuits instead of toast, catering to different tastes. The dish was valued for its hearty quality and versatility, fitting well into the culinary routines of many American households due to its ease of preparation and comforting nature. Mutton fat bread is something that's unapologetically itself. It's too rich, too deep, and it has all the meaty flavors you could ask for. The essence of rendered sheep fat is unmistakable here. It's something that goes perfectly well with day-old bread, slightly dry, a bit hard, and coarse. You know, the entire 9 yards. This is as rustic of a dish as it gets. It absorbs the hot fat in this dish and it crisps on the outside while getting extremely soft on the inside. This dish is something that you would see really commonly whenever you would pass by factory towns or farms, especially among rural laborers, such as people in the 19th and 20th centuries. They were sheep farming regions like the Appalachia, Wales, or the Highlands, and mutton fat was an extremely common ingredient in these areas. That's because it was always far more cheaper than butter, or just a lot more flavorful than lard. The ideal material for frying. The fried bread was also a good way for people to stretch meals, and although some people didn't vibe with the overly gamey taste, back then it was considered a standard of most red meat-based meals. Enough of all this savory stuff. Let's go towards something that's actually sweet. Believe it or not, people had incredible tricks and tips for that. Boiled wheat berries and sugar syrup porridge is something that's the kind of breakfast that just transports you through time. It takes you back to a world where everything is made from scratch. There's no back of the label you have to read, and the phrase pre-packaged isn't something your kids know yet. Nothing went to waste. Everything was fresh. It was what Cartoon Network made you think the world was going to be like. Or those Disney and Ghibli movies. Just anything with a hint of soul, you know? The wheat berries were really exquisite too. The ideal thing for putting somebody in a food coma. Flavor-wise, this is as rustic and comforting as it gets. The wheat berries have a very nutty aroma to them, an incredibly chewy texture, and the syrup is something that gives a very nice sweetness. It makes the dish feel like a wonderful treat without really doing too much, and the syrup is something that really adds to that. It's one of those breakfasts that really makes a cold morning into a scene ripped right out of some indie film. The porridge was something that peaked in popularity throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, and that was especially true for rural households where wheat was very cheap and accessible. Today, it's a nostalgic recipe you find in ancient cookbooks, but it's worth making. Hamburger hash, a hearty and comforting dish, became popular in the mid-20th century. It's a breakfast favorite made with ground beef, potatoes, and onions sautéed together. Ground chuck is often used for a flavorful base. Hamburger hash is garnished with fresh herbs or served with eggs, adding to its satisfying taste. The dish became popular for its convenience and hearty appeal, especially for families or large groups. Regional variations exist, such as incorporating bell peppers or different meats. In some regions, corned beef hash is a popular variation, using corned beef instead of ground beef. The dish was commonly paired with coffee or juice for breakfast, reflecting America's love for hearty morning meals. Creamed eggs on toast involves gently chopped hard-boiled eggs in a creamy sauce, often seasoned with herbs and spices, served over toasted bread. This dish, known for its comforting qualities and simple preparation, became a favored breakfast and light meal option, aligning with American preferences for hearty, straightforward dishes. The versatility and seasoning allowed for a variety of flavors, making it a popular choice in both diners and home kitchens. The dish's rich, creamy texture combined with the ease of preparation made it a reliable choice for a satisfying meal, fitting well into the meal routines of many seeking both comfort and simplicity in their culinary choices. Barley breakfast porridge is this incredibly wholesome dish with a supremely nutty flavor. So, it has this really satisfying texture that just feels like you're almost dipping your hooks into a custard, right? But it's also something that can be made to resemble kheer if you've ever had it. It can be made from hulled barley or pearl barley, but depending on which, you get an entirely different flavor merry-go-round. The combination is something that screams cottagecore. Historically, barley porridge really was a cottagecore too. It was a popular breakfast for people who were in rural areas, immigrant communities, and people who lived on the fringes of civilization, especially during winters, when barley was something that everybody was investing in, from the mountains to the cities. Barley breakfast porridge isn't something that's really all that common anymore. It's been overshadowed by oats, granola, and the convenience of all the pre-packaged instant cereals of today, but there's a place for it still. You can cause that comeback yourself by sharing your own take on the barley breakfast porridge. Now, crust coffee soak, on the other hand, is something that is actually wondrous. It's a take on stale bread crusts, and I mean the little leftover bits that almost nobody likes eating, and the idea here is actually pretty interesting. You take those crusts, soak them in hot coffee, sometimes a dash of sugar and a splash of milk, and you actually end up reviving the stale bread crusts completely. It was a very bare-bones dish, don't get me wrong, but it was also surprisingly comfortable if you grew up with it. Think about all the other things you can do with this too, like coffee-soaked bread pudding. Although, if we're being realistic, it's definitely just survival food at its core. You might still find old people today who remember their grandparents making this dish for them, but largely speaking, it wasn't that much of a hit, but it was amazing at saving money and keeping your appetite quiet for just a little while longer. Buttered grits, a Southern staple, originated in colonial America. This simple yet beloved dish is usually served as a side or base for other toppings. Made from ground corn, grits are cooked with water or milk until creamy. Then butter is added for richness. The dish is synonymous with Southern cuisine, particularly in Charleston, South Carolina, known for its love of grits. Grits are remembered for their comforting texture and versatility, which made them a popular breakfast dish in the 1970s. Traditional or unusual toppings like cheese, shrimp, or gravy enhance the dish. The dish's cultural significance lies in its association with Southern hospitality and hearty breakfasts. In some Southern states, grits are even considered a delicacy and are often served at special occasions and celebrations. Now, parsnip hash is a sweet, savory dish that boggles your mind. Because what really does parsnip hash entail? It's a sweet and savory skillet dish that smells a lot like summer and tastes like something that just came out of a wood-fired stove. Parsnips were diced, fried, and they turned golden at the edges. The idea was to caramelize them until they were just about to be overcooked, because there's this really specific sweet spot between overcooked and just typically caramelized where the flavor gets super concentrated. The end result was a nutty, peppery, and sweet dish that was honestly to die for. If you're looking for something healthy to add to your diet, this is also a wonderful option. And historically speaking, it's always been something people ate throughout the winter to keep their health strong, their immune system locked in, and their bellies full. Some people definitely prefer things completely vegetarian, and this is a pretty amazing way to go about it. If you're looking for some inspiration for your meal plan, then there's no better or healthier dish to start out with than turnip hash. Also, if you do end up trying this, you absolutely have to share the experience in the comments. I'm low-key dying to know what turnip hash is like. Peanut butter molasses sandwich is pretty much as good as it gets. It's old-school lunchbox energy, and it's sticky, sweet, and salty. It's pretty much made to power you through the day on a mostly low-key budget, and it's also exactly what it sounds like. This is a very hearty smear of peanut butter, and it's usually something that's layered with a drizzle of molasses on plain sandwich bread. Molasses tend to add this really deep, smoky sweetness that's a lot more intense than any kind of honey or jelly, and the peanut butter essentially rings the salt and fat. This makes it really well balanced and filling, and the sandwich shows up a lot more during times when economic crises were your average Tuesday. I'm talking about periods like the Depression and the middle part of the 1940s, where even an egg was not really promised to you. This was especially true for people in working-class homes. Peanut butter was something that people loved because it was really heavy in protein and dense, and it would work more often than not with molasses. The boldness and earthy sweetness of molasses actually bounced off really well with the richness of the peanut butter, and it's not a light sandwich at all. You know, we never really talk enough about the Scottish aspects of our country. Let's fix that with rumble de-thumps. And yes, that is exactly what it's actually called. This Scottish dish is a hallmark of their tradition, made with mashed potatoes mixed into a cabbage casserole that's been baked thoroughly with cheese and butter. It's rustic, it's right from the Scottish Highlands, and it's a great way to get rid of some leftover vegetables that are on the verge of spoiling, so naturally, it was definitely in a lot of people's options. Plus, there was this entire phase of the start of the second half of the 20th century, where Americans as a whole took after Christopher Columbus and decided to see what else the world had to offer. Only this time, instead of uncharted land, they weren't around looking for new recipes from countries and their cuisines. That's how we picked up rumble de-thumps, after all. It didn't help that America had vibrant immigrant communities from just about every culture in the world. The simple truth is that this dish tastes good, but it couldn't keep up with the times. It takes a lot of work, it's a little too heavy, and it's just not well known enough anymore. Fast food, takeouts, and Instagram-worthy food often ended up taking precedence over regional rustic dishes like this one, and they couldn't really keep up with the competition anymore. Over time, it only got less and less exposure, and people eventually ended up forgetting all about this little fragment of Scottish culture. Maple bars are a type of donut that was first created in the mid-20th century. This sweet treat is typically enjoyed as a breakfast item or snack, especially in the Pacific Northwest, where it has become particularly popular. Maple bars are made from a light and airy dough that's shaped into a rectangular bar, then fried and topped with a sweet maple-flavored icing. The maple bar is believed to have originated in Portland, Oregon in the 1920s, with local donut shops offering this unique variation of the classic donut. The type of dough used for maple bars is similar to that of traditional donuts, ensuring a soft and tender texture. In 2013, the mayor of Portland declared June 7th as National Donut Day to celebrate the city's rich donut culture, including the iconic maple bar. Remember Grape Nuts Flakes? Introduced as a variant of the original Grape Nuts cereal, offered a flakier texture while retaining the nutritional benefits of the original, such as being high in fiber and low in sugar. These flakes appealed to consumers seeking a nutritious yet convenient breakfast option, fitting well into a balanced diet. Known for their crunchy texture, Grape Nuts Flakes were often consumed with milk or yogurt, providing a satisfying meal. The cereal was marketed for its health benefits, which resonated with health-conscious consumers. The distinct texture and robust flavor of Grape Nuts Flakes made them a staple in some homes, favored for their contribution to a healthy lifestyle and their ability to offer a fulfilling start to the day. Stewed tomatoes on bread were something created out of thrift necessity, but they ended up being such a massive comfort food for the people that they stuck around. Tomatoes are often canned, right? That didn't used to be a thing until like the 60s, and that's why people really wanted to try out this new variant of tomatoes. They were slow-cooked, fresh with onion, butter, and bacon fat. Some people would go the extra mile, add a bit of sugar and salt, sometimes a hint of spice and vinegar, or take on a really rich and slightly sweet flavor. As these would tend to simmer, they would soften into this thick, chunky sauce that was kind of juicy but not really watery, and it had a really nice acidity to it. It helped that whatever flavors were there would cling really hard to the tomatoes. The simmering process would help them soften into this thick, chunky sauce too, and it went wild with white bread or cornbread. The bread was perfect for absorbing all of that up like a sponge, and that's what made this such a staple throughout the Depression and throughout a lot of the southern areas. Tomatoes are something that nobody ever really runs out of, and stewing them on bread is something that's a forgotten classic for getting through a hungry day. Applesauce bread is essentially what you think it is. This super cozy, sweet-smelling loaf of bread works wonders, and it makes your entire kitchen feel like an advertisement for autumn, but right in the middle of April. It's soft, really moist, and spiced just right so that it's not really overwhelming, but you can definitely pick up on those cinnamon and nutmeg notes. A bit of clove here and there also does wonders for the dish. The applesauce is something that keeps it really tender without needing a lot of butter or soil, and this is, to be honest, most of the point. It was a go-to during the 30s and 40s, especially in wartime kitchens where fat and eggs were pretty much rationed. Applesauce was really cheap. It was something that was easy to get at home, it doubled as a sweetener and a binder, and it ended up being perfect for cakes, breads, and cookies. Flavor-wise, it's something that you could call a mixture of banana bread and spice cake, so it's not too sugary, but it feels rich enough that you can definitely call it a dessert. Eggs Florentine was supposed to be this entirely new spin on Eggs Benedict. But see, when your entire selling pitch is that the new spin in question is just spinach, it doesn't really end up pulling its weight in the larger landscape of American eating. I mean, don't get me wrong, this thing shelled out more brunches than anyone expected it to, and it was a dynamite item on a lot of menus. But was it ever going to last past the wave of health-conscious suburban moms vying for the next optimized caloric deficit, and who would come up with it? Not really. It was a great dish, and it did some interesting things with hollandaise sauce, but overall, this little bit of English tradition could never really find a home within American neighborhoods, on their tables. Plus, the entire point of a fresh new take is to offer something different from the original. But as it stood, a lot of people just preferred their typical Eggs Benedict compared to Florentine. The Fluffernutter sandwich, created in the early 20th century, is a classic American dish often enjoyed as a sweet treat or snack. This nostalgic sandwich is made by spreading peanut butter and marshmallow fluff on white bread. The dish typically uses soft white bread, which complements the creamy textures of the fillings. The brand of marshmallow spread traditionally used is Marshmallow Fluff, invented in 1917 by Archibald Query in Somerville, Massachusetts. It was originally sold door-to-door before gaining widespread popularity. The sandwich became a popular childhood treat in the mid-20th century because of its sweet and satisfying taste. The term fluffernutter was coined by an advertising agency in the 1960s, solidifying the sandwich's identity. Blast off with Tang. Launched by General Foods in 1959, this vibrant drink rocketed into popularity by becoming the beverage of choice for astronauts during the 1960s space race. This stellar connection provided Tang with an unbeatable marketing boost, aligning it with innovation and adventure. With a lineup of flavors like orange, grape, and tropical punch, orange soared as the fan favorite, beloved for its vivid color and zesty taste. Tang's ads frequently featured space missions, solidifying its image as the futuristic drink of choice. Originally designed as a vitamin-enriched drink for convenience, Tang later shifted its marketing towards health-focused themes to keep up with changing consumer preferences about natural ingredients and sugar content. Turnip greens and cornmeal dumplings are a dish that confuses you. Is this survival food? Is this a nice little experiment with dumplings and vegetables? It feels like both. It was actually used in both ways too, so you would be pretty spot on with that assessment. See, people love to have fun with the things they did back then, even if those things were rooted in practicality and optimization. The turnip greens were something you simmered slowly, taking pleasure in the little things in life. You would absorb all the scents, fragrances, and aromas, and honestly, just doing that would kill most of your hunger. Plus, when they would get ready, they would turn silky and dark, and they had this really warm glisten to them. Swimming in a pot liquor broth that was abundant with pork fat, usually from a ham hock, it set the stage for an extremely soulful dish that knows what it's about. The cornmeal dumplings were then thrown into the pot, the perfect addition for something to revitalize your spirits. Soft spoonfuls of cornmeal dough would be mixed with bubbling greens, as they created a perfect Ghibli vibe for you to immerse yourself in. Historically, this is a dish that has been very common in Black and poor white communities. It's easy to romanticize today, but it is also a dish that's rooted in struggle, poverty, and making the most out of very little. Spam rose to prominence during World War II, appreciated for its convenience and shelf life, and it continued to be a staple in American households thereafter. It was marketed as a versatile ingredient suitable for a variety of dishes, appealing to families looking for quick, budget-friendly meal options. Hormel Foods, the maker of Spam, responded to changing culinary preferences by introducing new flavors and varieties, aiming to reinvigorate the brand's appeal amid shifting consumer tastes that favored fresher, less processed food options. These efforts included targeted marketing campaigns that emphasized Spam's versatility in modern home cooking, showcasing its ability to adapt to current trends while maintaining its core identity as a convenient and reliable food product. Beef kidney stew is a rich, earthy dish that has a lot to bring to the table. Bold, distinctly old-fashioned flavors, and more protein than your muscles probably know what to do with. It gives a really deep umami base. It has a little bit of a mineral flavor, slightly metallic. You know, that's par for the course when you're dealing with actual meat. But you throw this into a skillet with some slow-cooked onions, garlic, red wine, and bay leaves, and you'll end up with this incredibly exotic-looking stew. Dark, glossy, and full of flavor, it's something that has a velvety texture also, thanks to being thickened by flour. The chunks of soft, tender carrot and potato in there also give it an incredible contrast that the dish really needs. Now, historically, this has always been a staple of the working class, especially when you go into the 19th and 20th centuries. Today, beef kidney stew is something that's not really relevant outside of the usual TikTok bringing back age-old recipes. The bologna and egg breakfast sandwich is a straightforward and satisfying dish that has been enjoyed since the mid-20th century. This dish combines fried bologna, a cooked egg, and cheese on a soft roll or bread. Fried bologna sandwiches have been a staple in working-class American households since the early 20th century, providing a hearty and affordable meal option. The bologna is typically prepared by frying it until it develops a crispy edge, while the egg is cooked to preference, often sunny side up or over easy. The sandwich is usually served on a soft roll or white bread, complementing the savory fillings. In 2019, a food truck in Nashville, Tennessee, gained attention for serving gourmet versions of the classic bologna and egg sandwich, elevating it to a trendy brunch item. King Vitamin cereal, launched by Quaker Oats in the early 1970s, targeted young consumers with its king-themed mascot and crown-shaped cereal pieces. Its packaging, often featuring puzzles and stories, directly appealed to children's love for adventure and discovery. Fortified with vitamins and minerals, the cereal was an attractive choice for parents seeking nutritious options for their children's breakfasts. The engaging marketing campaigns utilized animated commercials that brought the whimsical world of King Vitamin to life, enhancing its appeal. The cereal's sweet flavor and unique shapes helped it stand out in the competitive market of children's cereals, making it a popular choice during its peak years, especially appreciated for its fun and nutritional content. Bacon fat griddle cakes are something that are pretty much just pure, smoky nostalgia. They're the right kind of greasy. They're visually stunning, and they're full of so much flavor that you'll wonder why people stopped making these in the first place. The best part? They're so good to make on a budget. All that's required for this recipe is some flour, milk, eggs, and just a tad bit of cornmeal, sugar, and maybe molasses if you're really feeling like a dessert king. You're going to have got really old school with the griddle. You take leftover bacon grease instead of any butter or oil, and once your cake's shape is completely done, you just slap them on the griddle. What you get for all your hard, strenuous work is a very crispy-edged, savory and sweet pancake that has a lot of smokiness to it. Each bite feels like a crunch, but the exterior is what's really worth talking about. Obviously, you'd expect something like this to have a fluffy inside, but the exterior is just the perfect start to a delicious bite. Cereal with half and half is a decadent and indulgent breakfast choice that became popular in the mid-20th century. This dish involves serving cereal with half and half cream instead of milk, creating a rich and creamy experience. The type of cereal most commonly used in this dish varies, but it often includes classic choices like Corn Flakes or Wheaties. The reason half and half is used instead of milk is to add a luxurious texture and flavor, enhancing the cereal's taste. In recent years, health-conscious consumers have sought alternatives to traditional half and half, leading to the popularity of dairy-free options like almond milk or oat milk for this indulgent breakfast dish. Introduced in 1964 by Carnation, this wasn't just your average breakfast, it was breakfast on the go. Available in tasty flavors like chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, chocolate being the preferred choice, it promised the nutrition of a complete meal. The drink became a morning staple due to its convenience and nutritional content, highlighted in campaigns that emphasized its health benefits. Over the years, as consumer tastes evolved, Carnation adapted its formula to include lower sugar and higher protein versions, meeting the newer nutritional expectations without compromising on the quick, delicious start that families had come to rely on. Rolled oats and bacon are a really humble and delicious combination. It does two things very perfectly. It balances the comfort of a cream-heavy dish with the allure of smoky flavors. Now, that's not very hard to do, but I think when a dish makes that work, it's always one for the Notes app. The oats are something you simmer slowly in water and milk. You know, the usual preparation. You have to wait until it becomes completely porridge, though. Stir in these crisp crumbles of bacon, and suddenly the dish transforms into a wonderful savory fantasy. You get to have this decadent texture with just the tiniest bits of smoky aftertaste, and it makes for a dish that just feels like the perfect autumn or winter breakfast. Historically, though, this is a dish that you would actually find more often in the summer times, when people were really trying to stretch out their meals and scraping for protein. Especially in the early 20th century, when rationing meant that almost everyone had to think conservatively about what they were eating and how much of it they were using. The savory oats bowl couldn't ever go mainstream, but I think that suits the quiet nature of the dish. Eggs in a nest, also known as eggs in a frame, brought a playful twist to traditional breakfast eggs by frying them inside a hole cut from a slice of bread. This simple yet delightful dish allowed for creativity and personalization during preparation, making breakfast an engaging meal. It was particularly popular for its ease of preparation and the joy it brought to the breakfast table, allowing for variations such as different bread types or added toppings like cheese or herbs. The interactive cooking process, cutting the bread and watching the egg cook perfectly in the middle, was a key appeal, making it a favorite among families. This dish stood out for its simplicity and the fun it added to cooking, making it a go-to choice for a quick and enjoyable breakfast. Deviled eggs for breakfast is a surprising yet delightful dish that has roots in the early 20th century. It's a brunch favorite, featuring hard-boiled eggs filled with a creamy mixture of egg yolks, mayonnaise, mustard, and spices. Dijon or yellow mustard is typically used for a tangy kick, while toppings like paprika, chives, bacon bits, or caviar add variety. The dish is unique compared to other egg-based dishes because of its creamy and tangy filling, contrasting with the firm egg whites. Deviled eggs were originally known as stuffed eggs and appeared in American cookbooks as early as the 19th century, with variations featuring ingredients like vinegar, capers, and anchovies. Buckwheat porridge is a dish that screams warm and umami. It has a very nutty backbone and it has an incredibly rustic flavor profile. If you cook this slowly, the buckwheat groats start to absorb water and the milk. The end result is this ultra-divine, thick porridge that's really filling, deeply satisfying, and just what you need after a hard day of work. Its texture is something that's a lot coarser than oatmeal, it's a lot chewier, it's more toothsome, and it has a rich and bitter flavor that makes it stand out from softer kinds of breakfast grains. Unsweetened, it's a bit less robust. It leans towards savory more than it does to anything complex, flavor-wise. Sweeten it with molasses, honey, or brown sugar, though, and you get an entirely different picture. Vividly smoky, deeply sweet, and just the right kind of warm, it becomes this ideal comfort food that restores your spirit and gets you ready for your day. Buckwheat porridge has always been something people have used like that, to just get themselves on their feet when they don't feel like making anything else, and I think it's time to bring the tradition back for all grain enthusiasts. Postum was not coffee, it just looked like it was. For many families, it was the hot beverage of choice, especially when actual coffee was too expensive or frowned upon for kids. Made from roasted grains and molasses, Postum was marketed as the wholesome, caffeine-free alternative. And somehow people bought into that. You would stir a spoonful into hot water and try to convince yourself it tasted like something grown-ups would drink. It had this deep, earthy flavor that hovered somewhere between toasted bread and boiled pencil shavings. Not terrible, just different. And when paired with a piece of dry toast, it became a breakfast that felt oddly noble. You were not indulging. You were starting the day with restraint. Postum was the drink of war years, depression years, and anyone trying to avoid caffeine jitters. It was the beverage equivalent of "we make do." And if you sipped it from a chipped mug while flipping through the newspaper or stared out the window while steam fogged your glasses, then you get it. That kind of quiet breakfast was not rare. It was routine. But when even bread was running low, folks had to get creative with what they spread, or did not spread, on top. Some things don't last even if they have everything going for it, and some things get sustained purely thanks to nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses. Milk toast is an example of the latter. This dish was made with bread slices that you had to toast real gently, not the way you're used to, until the bread is golden brown, bordering on slightly burnt. Then you'd put that in warm milk, which sometimes would be sweetened a bit more with sugar and vanilla or cinnamon. That was pretty much all you had to do, and overall, it was a pretty good way to get some variety up in your toast. Plus, historically speaking, it's always had a place as feel-good food and one of those DIY fixes for colds and flus. Comfort food that works in illness is really something to cherish, and that's exactly what Americans did with this dish, so why the sudden switch up? The thing is, the breakfasts of today look a lot more like smoothies and granola bowls than milk toast. While it was tasty and comforting, it didn't have a lot else to offer people, and it didn't help that this could be made with white bread only. People have largely moved towards brown bread, so as a consequence, a core component of the milk toast experience just isn't something you'd get anymore. I always say it's better to let a dish go than eat a bastardized version of it. But like I said, this thing has nostalgia going for it, and there are definitely still a lot of people making it today, just not as much as there used to be. The decline's significant enough that it's fair to say this dish went into irrelevancy. Heard about space food sticks? Launched in the early 70s, these snacks promised a taste of astronaut life right on your snack plate. Introduced in the early 1970s, they were marketed as a nutritious option that provided sustained energy with flavors like peanut butter and chocolate. The novelty of their space-age concept, combined with practical packaging that made them easy to consume on the go, initially drew considerable attention. The connection to NASA and the allure of consuming astronaut food added to their appeal, particularly among children and young adults intrigued by space travel. The innovative approach of space food sticks to combining nutrition with the excitement of space exploration helped them capture a unique niche in the snack market. Along the same time as McDonald's and Burger King was making breakfast items, you had Wendy's trying to get into the game early with their breakfast burrito, which really did do much better than they initially expected it would. People knew Wendy's for their chicken and their amazing square beef hamburger patties, so it is not surprising that some people went in with hesitant minds when they first ordered this. We always say you cannot know until you try, and that could not have been truer for Americans when they would start taking their first bites of a succulent, explosive breakfast burrito. It had a perfect mix of flavors and harmony between meat, vegetables, sauces, and bread, all in some very affordable. Wendy's use of cheddar cheese also really got people going and sold them on the idea Americans will eat almost anything if you put some hot melted cheese on it. The success of Wendy's newly propelled breakfast menu, including the burrito, slowed down around 2013, so it's pretty disappointing that you cannot get that same luxury yet incredibly cheap breakfast. Puffed rice cereal was shot from guns. That was not a joke. That was the actual slogan. And if that sounds dramatic, it is because cereal marketing in the mid-20th century was off the rails. You would open a tall tin can, yes, a literal metal can of cereal, and pour out a mound of puffed air disguised as breakfast. Puffed rice was bland, had the texture of packing peanuts, and got soggy 5 seconds after milk hit it. But kids ate it by the bowlful. Why? Because the name sounded dangerous and the commercials were wild. There was something thrilling about knowing your cereal had been blasted into existence with air cannons and then sealed in a tin like military rations. Plus, it made a great sound when it hit the bowl. The taste? Forgettable. But in a time when breakfast had to stretch and shelf life mattered more than flavor, puffed rice did its job. You could eat it dry, throw some sugar on top, or mix it with something else entirely. And for families who grew up on wartime habits and post-war marketing, it was a compromise that stuck around. But not everything from that era was dry or crunchy. Some breakfasts were warm, brown, and stirred in circles. Sometimes you can do everything right and be easy to make, and it still doesn't matter if you don't have enough going for you to outlast the ever-changing trends. Tea eggs are another unfortunate example of that, but they were good for what they were and how long they lasted. You needed to boil the eggs until they were hard, and then, now here's the important part, crack the shells, but not actually peel them. Then, you'd simmer the eggs in this super aromatic mix of black tea, soy sauce, star anise, and other warm spices. It was even popular to use Chinese 5-spice powder. This helps make a rich marinade that really gets through that shell and not only gives the eggs a flavor you wouldn't get anywhere else, but also gives it a real glow-up. Tea eggs had this beautiful marbled pattern on the whites that would make them almost irresistible. See what I mean? This dish pretty much has everything, and it's not really the easiest thing you could make, but it's definitely not hard either. It actually used to be a big presence in street food culture too. You'd go to Chinatown, or places with a strong Chinese-American community, walk up to a stall and get some tea eggs. Pretty common occurrence in America back in the 20th century, especially around Lunar New Year. Unfortunately, the recipe only received less and less exposure and faded out as a result.
Wheatina, a whole wheat hot cereal known for its hearty flavor and nutritional benefits, catered to health-conscious consumers since its introduction in the late 19th century. Its high fiber and mineral content were key selling points, attracting those seeking a nutritious breakfast. The all-natural composition of Wheatina appealed to consumers looking for wholesome meal options. It was often served warm and could be enhanced with fruits or nuts, allowing for customization according to individual taste preferences. This adaptability made Wheatina a preferred choice for those who valued both health and flavor in their breakfast, establishing it as a nutritious option capable of providing sustained energy throughout the morning.
Goose grease toast is old-world decadence at its finest. It's a dish that isn't pretentious, overly fancy, or something it doesn't need to be. Instead, all you get is a crispy, rich, dripping flavor that comes at you like Trump tariffs towards China. This is also the kind of flavor you can pretty much obtain only from a long, slow-roasted bird, and the grease itself is something that's rendered from the fat of a goose. Typically, you get this from a holiday roast or a Sunday dinner. Once it gets cooled and strained, it becomes this ivory-colored fat that has a savory depth. It's a lot less saltier than you would expect a bacon fat dish to be either. It's more so rich and complex. If you spread this on hot toast, then the party really gets going. The dish melts into every pore of the bread, and it just becomes one of those meals that just blends flavors together. You know how you eat something and you can pick apart all the different things that are in there? That isn't the case with this dish. It's literally just something that all melts together into one individual, unique flavor, which is a really good statement about the quality of a dish. Historically, goose grease toast was definitely something new because it was introduced by immigrant communities, and people were a bit unsure. Once they tried it, though, they really got on the bandwagon. Goose grease toast is something that's really gone from American tables now, but they used to be something that got everyone seated at a table.
Creamed eggs on toast involves gently chopped hard-boiled eggs in a creamy sauce, often seasoned with herbs and spices, served over toasted bread. This dish, known for its comforting qualities and simple preparation, became a favored breakfast and light meal option, aligning with American preferences for hearty, straightforward dishes. The versatility in seasoning allowed for a variety of flavors, making it a popular choice in both diners and home kitchens. The dish's rich, creamy texture combined with the ease of preparation made it a reliable choice for a satisfying meal, fitting well into the meal routines of many seeking both comfort and simplicity in their culinary choices.
If you ever ate pie while standing in front of the fridge with a spoon and a guilty conscience, then welcome home. But not every shortcut was sweet. Some were warm, brown, and brewed from desperation. Schneckens were another little treat we took from another culture that faded out over time. This time, we have German cooking to thank. This puff pastry was shaped like a spiral, filled silly with cinnamon, nuts, sugar, and pretty much every little glucose-dense ingredient you could imagine. You'd take a bite and think cinnamon rolls, but it would look and feel a lot like sticky buns. They found a nice little audience for themselves up north, especially since they did well with warming people up during the cold, but they couldn't last in the face of more popular French pastries that were pretty much dominating American baking for the better part of a century. Also, there was a little skill barrier. People saw the intricate preparation process revolving around kneading, cutting, and then filling out the dough. Plus, slicing it into those little spiral ships took a lot of time. The focus for Americans, on the other hand, was gradually going more and more towards breakfasts that could be prepared in around 20 minutes, especially with easy-to-make baking mixes, cutting out half the labor entirely. French toast with powdered sugar, also known as pain perdu in France, is a beloved breakfast dish dating back to the 4th or 5th century. It involves dipping bread in a mixture of eggs and milk, then frying it until golden brown. Traditionally, it's served with powdered sugar, though various toppings like fruit or syrup can be added. The bread choice impacts the dish, with brioche or challah being popular for their rich texture and flavor. The name Pain Perdu means lost bread, as it originally used stale bread to prevent waste. Unique toppings such as cream or savory ingredients have added variety to this classic. In the U.S., Julia Child popularized French toast, cementing its place in American cuisine and making it a household staple. Her televised cooking show, The French Chef, played a significant role in introducing French toast to a wider American audience. Speaking of dreamy sandwiches that set the mood just right, it would be downright criminal to record this and not talk about Jack in the Box's prime rib steak and egg sandwich. A warm flour tortilla wrap with hash browns, prime rib, cheese, onions, and a lot more, making it one of the most premium savory thrills you could get on an affordable budget. People ate these up like goblins, sparing no thought for the punch to their gut health-wise or how heavy one of these really was. Listen, this really shouldn't be too surprising if you know anything about prime rib steak and America's long-standing love for each other. It has always been one of the most popular ways to get your protein, and the idea of prime rib steak sandwiches and other bread-based dishes is not new. What was new was the innovative flavors Jack in the Box managed to hit and maintain with its sauces, and we gotta say, adding in the hash browns definitely helped too. Something we would spend a quarter of our paycheck on if it came out today for sure. Lastly, after you've polished off your toast with a hearty smear of rendered fat, what's next? Well, you'd reach for a steaming bowl of hasty pudding, the breakfast MVP of the thrifty kitchen. Made from humble cornmeal, this quick-cooked mush was beloved in early American kitchens for being fast, filling, and fantastically versatile. Colonial cooks simply boiled cornmeal with water or milk until thick and creamy, then topped it with a drizzle of molasses, honey, or even a bit of leftover fat for extra richness. Think of it as the rustic cousin of modern-day polenta or cream of wheat, but with frontier grit. Hasty pudding got its name for good reason. It was a no-fuss dish that came together in minutes, making it perfect for hard-working families who didn't have time for elaborate breakfasts. It filled bellies and fueled long days of labor on farms, in factories, and at sea. But over time, as breakfast menus became fancier and quicker convenience foods flooded the market, hasty pudding fell out of favor. Which forgotten breakfast do you wish would make a comeback to your table? Share your morning memories in the comments, hit like and subscribe so you never miss more nostalgic trips through America's delicious past.